we encourage you to subscribe to med-surg Moments wherever you listen to podcasts.
Do you have plans September 12th through 14th?
The AMSN Annual Convention is the can't-miss event for medical surgical nurses.
Register now to join AMSN in Toronto, September 12th through 14th, 2024.
And prepare to connect with hundreds of peers for 3 days of learning the latest insights, trends, and best practices in the specialty.
Visit amsn.org to secure your spot. This is Eric,
Mary Tess,
Sydney, Sam,
Neo,
And Laura. Welcome to med-surg Moments, the AMSN podcast.
This podcast is an engaging look at the lives of and surrounding medical surgical nurses.
We're proud med-surg nurses just like you, sharing our stories, insights, and experiences to support you in your nursing journey.
In many ways, the nursing profession is in a transition period, experiencing many changes both professionally and generationally.
Sometimes it's hard to think back to our nursing school days and what it was like to view the nursing profession from that perspective.
That's why today we've invited 2 nursing students to join us as special guests for a conversation about their educational journeys so far and the nursing profession they will be entering.
With us today is McKayla Hatfield and Ben Meyer. Both will be entering their junior year in the fall at the University of Kentucky College of Nursing. McKayla and Ben, welcome to med-surg Moments.
Hello, thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So before we dive into the conversation, our listeners would love to hear more about your personal stories, where you're from, stories about your nursing encounters when you were growing up, and what inspired you to pursue nursing. McKayla, why don't you start?
I'm from a small town in the state of Kentucky. It's called Owensville. A lot of people don't really know where it's at whenever you look at it on a map. So I just tell Eastern Kentucky and they can kind of get it by my accent. As far as going into the nursing field, whenever I think about the healthcare profession, I think all the way back to whenever my grandfather started our own EMS department in my county by himself with one of his friends. And they only started out with a hearse, an old hearse from a nursing home that was in our town. From then, they built it up to where it is now. And my dad's on the fire department with my older brother and my little brother and my uncles. It's a whole family project basically going on. So I was like, I gotta go healthcare field somewhere. And so whenever I got to think about what I wanted to do going into like healthcare profession, I was like, I think I might want to start off as a nurse. What really determined what I wanted to go into was one day we were coming back. It was Memorial Day weekend. So basically this time, a couple years ago, I was in the car with my dad, my mom, and my little brother. And we were coming back from putting in flowers on graves and stuff like that. And as we're driving back, my dad gets a call. And it was a 3-year-old that had a granite countertop fall on his head. My dad looked at my mom and he's like, "We're going. I'm sorry. You're coming with us." And so as we're going, we meet the ambulance as we're getting off the interstate. And like, we're right behind him going up the road. And we ended up meeting the grandparents that had the child. And they were like, "Go set up for LZ, which is a landing zone." And so my dad's like, "All right, we're going to the sports complex," because they have a big open field, perfect for a helicopter to land. I'm sitting there watching a helicopter land. I was like, I want to be in that. And my dad was like, you know, there's a flight nurse in that right now, right? And I was like, no, that's possible. And it was just from then on, I was like, I got to talk to them. I got to ask about it. And they even told me that later on after graduation, I can come back and take a ride along with them. And I was like, let's go. I'm ready. Sign me up.
Wow, that's an amazing story, McKayla. Thanks for sharing that with us. Ben, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm from a town in Illinois called Naperville. It's about 40 minutes southwest of Chicago. So I grew up there, spent the first 18 years of my life there. For me, in the grand scheme of things, nursing as a profession didn't cross my mind until the past 5-6 years. What really kind of changed my mind was a pretty disturbing experience. It was a pretty cold morning. I think I was heading to school. And I remember my mom calling me. My grandfather had a heart attack. My heart was racing. I didn't know what was happening exactly. I had a chance to kind of sit by his side during that entire recovery process. I got to see the nurses on the cardiac floor that he stayed on, and it was very inspiring to me to see the hard work put into providing good quality care, and to have that quality care delivered to my grandfather is a very cool experience, and it definitely inspired me to get into the realm of nursing.
Very personal. I think everybody has a little story like that in the back where we got to see nurses provide care, and it kind of sparked something within us. So both of you, obviously, you've had that spark.
So have your guys' views on the nursing profession changed any since you first started nursing school?
I would say so. When we're going into it, it's like, oh, this is going to be super cool to do. And then after you get into it, it's like, oh, this is really hard, but it's still going to be super cool to do.
I know when I first started, it was a lot of just knowledge, and nothing really clicked until I had one of these aha moments where I'm in clinicals and I said, oh, you kind of start seeing the pieces come together. Have you guys experienced any of that stuff yet?
I'm not entirely sure if I've had an aha moment yet. I will say I had a very negative clinical experience in my nursing assisting clinical space that left a very sour taste in my mouth. I guess an aha moment for this year, it was try again, go out and do a clinical with UK. And that way I had a much better experience, and it really opened my eyes to the possibilities for nursing students.
I don't think I really had an aha moment either yet. Of course, I'm like, oh, well, I know what that is. But other than that, it's not been like in your face or anything like that.
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, but I will tell you, you will probably come across many more negative clinical experiences. Welcome to nursing. But the positive outweigh the negative. I believe so.
I agree.
Most of us on here have some background in nursing education, and I'm the newest of that group, and I'm in my practicum semester, my student teaching. I came from the path of LPN, RN, BSN online, MSN online. You guys coming out of assuming a traditional BSN program. How much in front of your teacher time do you have as opposed to a lot of self-teaching online? And do you see any future complications with having more screen time than actual face time and transitioning into practice?
Yes, that's a very good question. Our classes right now are 2 hours at a time, 2 or 3 hours at a time with a teacher. And that's just them mostly just lecturing at us, just telling us stuff that we need to know. And it's like, we've all talked about this amongst ourselves, and we're like, we wish we'd have a little bit more communication stuff going on, but it's just mostly 2 hours, 2 days a week of them just lecturing at us. And a lot of it spent online, learning the stuff, having to teach ourselves.
Yeah, I agree with what McKayla said. The majority of classes do have an online portion to them. And so there's these things called pre-lectures. And we had to do stuff before we go into the class. And then we kind of relearn what we learned. So we're learning and we're learning again. And then we're reinforcing our learning after that. It's a lot of learning, like you said.
Oh, it's definitely stressful at times, especially this semester, just starting into the nursing program. I found out I had a herniated disc. So that just made it even more stressful. And Ben got to help me experience that. But we found like whenever we got together and we had our study sessions before tests and stuff like that, it helped out tremendously. I was so scared for our last final. I was freaking out the day before. In order to pass, I only needed like a 60 something on it. And I was like freaking out for some reason. I was like, oh no, I'm not going to get it because I was struggling with the last one. And so with that study session, I came out with an A.
Yes, a lot of study sessions. We've definitely bonded interpersonally, us and also our peers. McKayla has her group of really great friends. I have my group of friends, and we kind of join together. And with our powers combined, we do well on our exams.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have survived nursing school without my study group. We just kind of gravitated to each other. We had similar study styles. They were a godsend to me.
I think ours all got started because we started off in clinicals together. Like it was 3 of my friend group and it was like a couple of Ben's. And then like we just kind of like, hey, do you want to study together? Since like we're in the same clinical group, we might as well be together all the time.
Do you guys have any plans for what you want to do after graduation? What sort of fields you want to work in as far as types of nursing?
Honestly, I haven't the slightest clue.
I've pretty much got mine planned out. I'm going to hopefully start off somewhere staying in Lexington. I don't know really what field I want to go into because for flight nursing, you have to have a certain amount of hours before you can start or even apply to be a flight nurse. So it's like, I know I have to have like ICU, ER, all that stuff. So I was like, I'll just kind of cruise through each one of those and then travel nursing and doing some more of those and then finding a place to flight nurse.
Sounds exciting.
Well, McKayla, your path is like very direct. I know flight nursing usually requires a lot of ICU experience and sometimes even some ED experience. So you definitely have to stay kind of put for a bit to get all that going. Is that more of a regional area? Like, will they fly into you in that area?
I talked to med-evac, I think was the one I talked to, like their flight nurses. They have a couple stations in Kentucky. They have stations all across America. And so I would have to travel to them in order for me to be able to ride out on a helicopter to wherever they need us at. But especially here in the Appalachian region of Kentucky, it's very prominent that they need like helicopters because the closest level 1 trauma center is UK.
Ben and McKayla, I do have a question. I always ask this question to new nurses, but perhaps I'll ask the question to you as well. Like you said, nursing is very complex. There's a lot of things that we wanted to learn, a lot of learning, a lot of things that needs to be accomplished. So if you have an advice for someone who wants to go to nursing, perhaps thinking about yourself before entering nursing, how could you have prepared yourself before enrolling nursing?
I would really want to establish some really solid study habits. I'll be the first to say I did not have those in high school. Establishing those habits early, whatever you need to do to really reinforce the knowledge in yourself, start early. And if you really want to succeed in nursing school, I think that would really benefit you.
I completely agree with Ben. In high school, I did not have to study one bit in order to pass any class, which is really sad education-wise because they didn't really teach us a bunch of study tips or anything like that. So studying, but also I would say finding more stress relievers. So like with my back, I couldn't really go to the gym. And that was a big stress reliever for myself. So finding those times that you can find those ways to relieve that stress is a key thing, especially going into nursing, because where it is really stressful and it gives you a lot of anxiety and stuff like that.
Those are very great points. Even organized notes. And as nurses, we're very organized. I would say that for all of us, we like organized, structured notes. I like color coding. I like labeling. I like to make sure that everything is sorted out correctly. That's part of the critical thinking part as well. So I've heard in other curriculums, nursing schools have added critical thinking classes, even how to put together their own notes. That's a very good point. When you said something about stress relievers, I can relate to that because I think even our nurses right now, we do need some training on that, how to really detach from that stressful environment.
Yeah, connecting with self-care and what that means to every person is different. So
luckily, UK does do a little something like that. It's called Nursing 101. And what it is, they take you in a room and it's just full of nursing students, and they have like a nursing instructor, and they bring in one of the counselors, and they go through mindfulness activities, and they go through the different types of notes that you can take and organizing and all that stuff.
Yeah, I heard they have like a learning coach, and then they're all certified as nurse coach, I guess, something like that. I heard some of the schools have added that in the curriculum. That's really very helpful. I'm glad that you have that in UK.
I want to circle back to a question that we were discussing earlier related to Ben's negative experience at his clinicals, because a lot of our listeners are nurses on med-surg units that have students come in. What can our nurses on the floor do to help you have a more positive experience when you're on your clinical rotations?
I think for me, the first thing is to not adopt the nurses eat their young saying. I don't think that provides a very helpful environment for learning. And nursing students, they will make mistakes. They're bound to make mistakes. That's how you learn. That's how you figure out what to do right. And I think discipline in a med-surg floor shouldn't be, depending on the offense, of course. But in mild cases, discipline should not be super aggressive or degrading or anything like that. It should emphasize the point that, hey, we can learn from this. Just don't do it again.
Yeah. Coming in as a nursing student, we know that every nurse that's on that floor has a task. They have to get stuff done throughout the day, but we're also there to learn. And also we have our own assignments that we have to do for that day that we're there. But in my experience, it works a lot better whenever they're dragging us along and they're like, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to see what this is? This is an antibiotic that we're giving him right now. So we're going to mix it with this, and we're going to put it into his IV, and we're going to get him started on that. This prevents him from getting infection, and just like explaining the steps, how they would be explaining the steps to the patient anyway while we're there in the room helps out tremendously.
Yes, I 100% agree with what McKayla just said. Some of the best nurses on the floors that have helped us nursing students were the ones that said, hey, let me show you this. I think they noticed that we weren't doing much in the hallway because all we could do at that point was answer call lights or assist an actual nurse in doing something. But if they pulled us into something to take labs or whatever it is,
into the more exciting moments on the floor that day.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so hard to be the student because whether it's your nurse or even like your preceptor, like your clinical coordinator, can really make or break your experience. I've had really, really good clinical coordinators and really, really bad. The point, like you said, like the discipline and the punishment for making mistakes. I had a clinical instructor one time. It was our first time taking 2 patients. Wow, we're all having 2 patients today instead of 1. It's so exciting. And apparently we all did such a bad job that we were punished at the next clinical by only having 1 and only going back to basics. And I emailed her and I was like, hey, I don't really think that that's fair to punish us for not doing a good job. This was our first time having more than 1 patient. Like, obviously, we're not going to have the time management skills just yet. I'd really appreciate being able to try again next time. And the next time, I think she was doing it to be a little rude. She was like, everyone's going to have 1 patient today, but Sydney is going to have 2. I was like, good, this is what I wanted. Like, this is why I'm here in clinicals, is to learn and to practice. So if you get into those negative experiences with an instructor or nurse, like, definitely advocate for yourself, because that is your time to learn and you need to take advantage of it. Even if it feels uncomfortable to stand up to those people of authority, you're not going to get those experiences again. And then when it's you as the nurse, you're like, oh, I haven't seen this before. That's something that you might have missed when you're scared of the nurse or you're scared of your clinical person to ask.
Is it okay if I ask you guys a question?
Absolutely not.
Totally.
Awesome. As I sort of stated before, I honestly do not have a clue on what field of nursing I want to pursue. And I'm curious as to how you guys decided you wanted to be med-surg nurses.
My first choice, honestly, when I stumbled into nursing, I was going into L&D. And then I had such a great experience on med-surg. I just fell in love with it. I think I just like med-surg personally because you see a little bit of everything. And it was kind of like not the same. Just going into the field, I think, without like some preconceived notion of what you want, because you never know what you're going to want. You might think you know what you want, and then you'll end up on med-surg.
That's right. I thought I wanted postpartum. I think I've mentioned on the podcast before that this is a second career for me. So when I joined the nursing field, I was older. Oh, I thought I was older. Now that I'm much older, I realized I was really young at that point. My kickstart was my postpartum nurse. But once I did my postpartum rotation, I realized this is boring. I'm not enjoying this. I don't want to do this. So I opened my mind to it a little bit, and I thought, I'm just going to do med-surg for a little while, and then maybe I want to do critical care. I want to do something else. But I thought I was going to go to med-surg as a jumping off point. But once I got in there, I loved it. It was exactly what nursing was in my head. I took to it pretty quickly. I loved the unit that I was on, and I have never regretted staying with med-surg.
For me, kind of like Laura, this was a second career path. Strangely enough, I used to be an elementary school teacher. So I was like, oh, peds, this will be great. It's easy. I have great rapport with kids. And then I hit that whole peds rotation, and trying to tell a parent your kid might be a little bit slow is hard enough. So trying to tell them they're sickly and everything is a whole different beast. I also had a drive and passion for oncology, being a cancer survivor, and the hospital I was at the time in the unit, the manager I actually worked for as a CNA going through school had just left, and she was like my ideal boss. And I'm still in touch with her to this day. And so I actually was in the process of when I was doing the LPN to RN route, and the only other unit that used LPNs besides psych was this small med-surg unit. And I always tell people psych's everywhere. It's just what they're there for. Plenty of med-surg patients have psych issues. And so as an LPN, I kind of got stuck into a med-surg focus everywhere. And even when I got my RN, my BSN, I was just like, I kind of like it. It's like the junkyard. You see everything, like small bowel obstructions. I got you. Dialysis patients, fluid restriction, low sodium diet. I got you. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays. I got you. You see why all those nursing care plans come into play. I think that's the one thing I like about med-surg is it makes all those nursing care plans click. It just like unlocks the matrix. And here I stay, being a proud certified member.
My experience is a little bit unique being in the military. I didn't necessarily have a choice being med-surg. Most people, when you're a new graduate, start med-surg nursing. There's a few people who uniquely will get to do peds or oncology, but most people start in med-surg. But when I graduated nursing school and knew I was joining the military, I wanted to be some hard charging, cool ICU nurse, ED, something super cool and aggressive and powerful being in the military. But with the military also, you don't necessarily get the choice of what specialty you do. It's what's available and what they need. So that opportunity never really came for me to do ICU. And now that I've been in med-surg for 5 years now, I'm glad it didn't. I've fallen back in love with it, with med-surg. I realize the diversity of career that I can have, especially within like my field in the military. It's much more diverse to be a med-surg nurse in the career options that you have versus ICU. They kind of keep you in the ICU. My first hospital, I was on med-surg floor. Over here in Spain, I'm on med-surg, but we do everything. We do peds and psych and surgery and postpartum. We get to do everything as a med-surg nurse. I realized how much I love med-surg actually kind of recently again. My hospital, we don't always get like super acutely sick people just because of the size of it and the resources we have. But we had an older adult, and I was like, oh my gosh, we have to do Q2 turns, and we have to get him up for every meal, and we have to open his yogurt for him and remind him to drink water and put a movie on because otherwise he's going to stare at the wall. I was like, wow, like I miss this and I love this. Thinking of like every system and how it all relates and what we're going to do to make their life better.
Well, I think for me, it's really based on what your personality is. And I share that based on experience because I started med-surg and then I did ER, I did ICU. ICU is a little bit too detailed for me. I'm detailed, but it's too detailed. ED is too fast for me. And then I went to OR. I tried OR as well for 2 years. I didn't like it because nobody wants to talk. And I like to talk. I did behavioral health. And so I feel like, okay, I'm part of this group. So I can't stay this long in this area. And I say that with real respect for those who stayed in behavioral health. And so med-surg, there's a lot of areas that you can specialize with. You can be in dialysis, you can be in oncology, you can be surgical. And now I just saw recently, there's a new certification that came out, the acute care virtual nursing. And so it's just a lot of opportunities, but it really is for me based on your personality, how you are, you want to be diverse. There's a lot of things that you can do in med-surg. So that's what I wanted to share.
Tess, you like to talk?
Okay, I won't talk.
Now, I had that conversation with a friend of mine from OR nursing. She says, I don't like it when my patients can talk to me. And I was like, I hate it when they can't talk to me.
I agree.
But it takes all of us. It takes all of us. Everybody has their specialty.
Obviously, you all have been through schooling. You all are out of nursing school. You've been in the career path here for a little while. Do you think your view on students have changed from when you were a student to where you are now?
I am kind of biased to community colleges, having come from a community college system, essentially. I did a LPN and my associates at a community college, then online for my BSN and MSN now. And I find usually my community college students overall, it's so clinical intensive without all the, I don't know if you guys have taken your leadership class and your community health class, and it was just, even taking those posts, it was such fluff. I think sometimes you come in a little bit softer when it comes to like some skills and the intensity. Like I felt like they came at you hard. There was no being fluffy about anything. One of my old managers used to say, we don't need to eat our young, but we need to nibble them. And I feel like the community college levels, they keep you nibbled to keep you motivated and going. I do love when I get some community college students, I'm like, come on, let me show you some stuff, kids. And like, sometimes the BSN ones around our area, they kind of come in with a little bit more like, oh, I'm about to do this BSN thing, and a little bit more of a cocky attitude, I'll say. Nothing particularly, but that's just my experience. Actually, I did have a recent BSN student that was great. She was really awesome because she had worked before as a CNA, so she kind of knew the reality of it all. But I think, and that's one of the things I think that makes associate degree nurses starting out a little bit more intense, is that usually the BSN programs don't require you to have your CNA or to work as one. So they kind of come in like with this fluffy world of Grey's Anatomy and stuff, as opposed to what it's really like. So that's just my 2 cents.
My nursing advocacy would come out here. One of the things that I'm really very active with nursing advocacy is that I've seen the change in the profession. I'm not that old, but just saying, but there are changes in the curriculum that we need to do. To Neil's point, there are some structures that were removed, perhaps even the passing score, even the criteria, who needs to go to nursing. And I'll speak for Florida. Nursing schools are no longer regulated by the Florida board. We're trying to put that back to ensure that we have good curriculum. And so did it change? Absolutely. We need to embrace the change, but we need to see how we can improve this profession better. Just my 2 cents for that.
Yeah, I think we have done the same. We have recognized that the requirements for somebody attending school, the students aren't coming out with the same skill sets that they did a few years ago. It is a little bit different. So we are working to change our onboarding process and our practice transition program to make sure that new hires have the skills that they need. So it's definitely changing the way we onboard staff just because of the changes at the nursing school level. And that's just where I am in Texas. Okay, one last thing. I would like for our podcast host to give one piece of advice, not just to McKayla and Ben, but to any nursing students out there listening to us.
I would say you have to do what makes you happy. Don't worry about where you think you should be. Don't worry about where other people want you to be. You have to do what makes you happy and what feels right with you.
My personal mantra as a nurse is I get better every day. That's my mantra. You have to keep moving forward regardless of what happens. Each day and every day you're getting better and better.
Never stop learning. Don't stop at your degree. Get certifications, get involved.
There's always a different aspect of nursing that's out there that no one knows about. There's so many different varieties of nursing to be done.
Be yourself. Be yourself with your patients and be yourself with your fellow staff members. It's going to make your day-to-day so much more enjoyable. If you dot your I's with a heart, put a smiley face on the whiteboard, just make it fun and be yourself every day when you go to work.
Well, McKayla and Ben, it has been both inspiring and refreshing having you both with us today on this episode of med-surg Moments.
Thank you so much. This is actually my first podcast, so I'm loving this.
Thank you.
Well, we're excited you guys joined us today. And to our listeners, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode of med-surg Moments, the AMSN podcast.
In the meantime, we encourage you to subscribe to med-surg Moments wherever you listen to podcasts.
To reach us, use hashtag med-surg moments on your social posts.
Or send us an email at amsnpod@amsn.org. That's amsnpod@amsn.org.
We're all AMSN members, and if you love med-surg Moments, we invite you to become a member of AMSN. You can learn more at www.amsn.org.
Finally, the content within the med-surg Moments podcast represents the views, thoughts, and opinions of the co-hosts and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, and opinions of the Academy of Medical Surgical Nurses.
Until next time, this is Eric,
Laura,
Mary Tess,
Neil,
Sam?
And Sydney. And always remember, med-surg Moments is a moment in our lives and a moment in our med-surg careers that makes a huge difference.